Hello, welcome back to We the People Politics. Today, we will be making a hypothetical election prediction map between President Joe Biden, former Ambassador Nikki Haley, and former President Donald Trump. In this scenario, we will say that Haley has somehow managed to secure the Republican nomination despite suspending her campaign, and Trump has decided to run as an independent candidate. This prediction will be based solely on my interpretations of polling data, different demographic groups, and historical trends. With that out of the way, let's get predicting. We will start with the safe states, which are determined by a margin of 12 percentage points or more. For President Biden, we will give him Hawaii and the West Coast states, as I think Haley will definitely hurt Trump more than Biden. Illinois, for the same reason, in Massachusetts, D.C., Maryland, and Vermont because Biden has an incredibly strong hold in these places. Unfortunately for Ambassador Haley, she will not have any safe states as I believe Trump's influence far exceeds the Republican party's, and I don't see her being a strong enough candidate to overcome that. For President Trump, we will say that he carries the traditional Republican states in the Northwest, Midwest, and southern regions of the country, as I think that his influence in those regions is too strong for Haley to break. With the safe states finished, Biden leads with 124 safe electoral votes to Trump's 96 and Haley's 0. As for the remaining states, we will go from west to east, starting with the state of Alaska, where I think Haley would do very well, as moderate Republicans and independents have done very well there, and I think she would take enough of the vote from Trump to make Alaska tilt Trump. A tilt state is determined by a margin of 2 percentage points or under. In the state of Nevada, Trump has had a very large lead in polling throughout the year, and while I think Haley would take more votes from Trump, I believe he would still manage to win with his Hispanic support. So we would say that Nevada is also tilt Trump. Down in Arizona, I think that Haley would do well here as it is a very moderate suburban state, and I believe she would be able to take enough votes from Trump to make it tilt Biden. Moving up to Utah, it is a state that has been somewhat supportive of independent candidates and is very socially conservative, so we will say that she hurts Trump enough to make Utah likely Trump. A likely state is determined by a margin of 5 to 12 percentage points. Over in Colorado, I think that Haley would do well among suburban voters and likely take about an equal amount from Biden and Trump. So we would say that Colorado is likely Biden. In the state of New Mexico, I think that Haley would take a lot of college educated voters from Biden, but she would perform very poorly among the large Hispanic populations, which Trump seems to be doing well in. So we would say that New Mexico will be tilt Biden. It is a similar story in Texas, where I think that Trump will do well enough among Hispanic voters to prevent the margin from getting below 5%. So we would say that Texas is likely Trump. Moving up to Nebraska's second congressional district, I think that Haley would take more votes from Trump than Biden in this urban area. So we would say that it is just barely likely Biden. In the state of Iowa, I think that while Haley would hurt Trump more, I don't think it would be enough to bring the margin below 5 percentage points. So we would say that Iowa is likely Trump. Up in Minnesota, I think that Haley would not do very well as it is a traditionally Democratic working class state, and she would likely have minimal impact here, so we will say that it is lean Biden. A lean state is determined by a margin of 2 to 5 percentage points. Over in the swing state of Wisconsin, I think that while Haley would hurt Trump more than Biden, the margin shift would be minimal, and I think that Trump's lead is large enough for him to still take it by a tilt margin. I think that Haley would have a similar impact in Michigan, so we would say that Trump takes it also by a slightly lower tilt margin. I do think that Haley would do very well in Indiana, as it is very socially conservative, and I believe she would definitely do well enough to bring it down to likely Trump. I think she would also hurt Trump in Ohio, albeit to a lesser extent, and I think that the margin would barely be lowered to a lean margin for Trump. I think that Haley would definitely hurt Trump in Florida due to the large urban and suburban population, so we would say that it is also lowered to a lean margin in Trump's favor. Up in Georgia is a state that Trump has been leading in by a fairly large margin throughout the year. However, I think that the large suburban population, as well as the fact that it borders South Carolina, will make it tilt Biden by about the same margin as it was in 2020. South Carolina was a likely state in 2020 with a margin of Trump plus 11.7 points. And I think that with Haley as the Republican nominee, I think that it would drop by about 5 points as she was its governor for 6 years. So we would say that it is just barely likely Trump. North Carolina is a very similar state to Georgia, and while I think Haley would also have a significant impact here, I think Trump would still carry it due to its slightly larger rural population and the fact that it has recently trended to the right of Georgia. So we will say that it is tilt Trump. I believe that Haley would take more votes from Biden in Virginia, primarily in the DC metro area, and I think that it could be one of the closest states in the nation. Therefore, Virginia will be tilt Biden. Up in the final major swing state of Pennsylvania, I believe that Haley would take more votes from Trump here than in Wisconsin or Michigan, particularly in the Philadelphia suburbs. So we would say that Pennsylvania is tilt Biden. In the state of Delaware, New Jersey, and New York, I would argue that Haley would slightly hurt Biden's lead in these states. And seeing as Trump could definitely lower the margin below 12 points on his own here, we would say that they will be likely Biden. I think that Haley would do very well in Connecticut, Rhode Island, and New England in general, due to her being a very establishment, neoconservative candidate. And I believe that she would definitely hurt Biden enough to make both states only likely Biden. I believe that Haley would win New Hampshire. It was one of her best states in the Republican primary. It has a high concentration of moderate independent voters who dislike both Biden and Trump, and I believe that it wouldn't even be that close, probably a lean margin in Haley's favor. I think that she would also win Maine at large and its second district, albeit by tilt margins, for the same reasons as New Hampshire. I believe that Biden would take the first district, but would only be by a lean margin. And with that, we conclude this hypothetical prediction. Biden has 266 electoral votes, Trump has 265, and Haley has 7, meaning that none of these candidates would win due to nobody reaching 270 electoral votes, making it a contingent election. And since the choice would go to the House of Representatives, either Trump or Haley would likely win, as the Republicans have a 4-seat advantage. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe. If you have any disagreements or additional thoughts, feel free to comment down below. With all of that said, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I can't wait to see you in the next one.